épisode de la Retenue des hypothéqués, le podcast qui traite d'éducation financière et qui vous évitera de devenir un cancre financier. Épisode spécial en anglais. Today we receive Kelly Alexander, DJ and host, Virgin Radio Montreal. We discuss the importance of getting financial advice, how scary finances are for so many, and of course, her famous blue four-wheeler. She even named him. All this and much more. Stay with us. Bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à cette émission de la retenue des hypothéqués. Aujourd'hui, émission spéciale. On a un invité incroyable et cette invitée, vous la connaissez peut-être si vous écoutez de la radio anglophone à Montréal. Donc, le show aujourd'hui va être en anglais. Puis ça, c'est bon pour moi parce que, comme vous pouvez peut-être entendre, je suis un peu plus confortable en anglais. Tu vois, elle rit de moi déjà. Donc, without any further delay, Kelly Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that you appreciate it.
I am ready to rock. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Really, I've been nervous about it all day.
I wish you had texted me. We would have calmed you down.
Yes. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have taken that coffee about 2 minutes ago because like, aside from your presence and the coffee, I feel my hands are all sweaty. I don't know what to do right now. So
ask questions, Rye.
I will. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for asking me.
So for those who are listening and watching us and are like, well, who is Kelly Alexander? Kelly, tell us a bit about who is Kelly, the legend.
Yeah, the legend.
And tell us about a bit your job and so what you do for a living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've always wanted to be on the radio since I was about 5 years old when my parents used to listen to CJD in the kitchen. And so I used to hear the voice coming out of the radio and I just thought it was the coolest thing.
George Balkan. And he used to talk about, sports and entertainment and current affairs and politics. And I just thought that was amazing that he was able to do all these different things and talk to so many different people and you got to hear him on the radio. And so that radio bug has been with me ever since. And then I went to Dawson College, go Dawson Blues. And I got involved at the radio station CIXS at the time. And the first time, and that was my first experience of really being behind a microphone. And the minute I turned on that microphone for my very first show, I was very nervous, of course, but it was like the light bulb went off literally, the on-air button came on, and I was like, this is where I feel like at home. It just lit you up.
It just lit me up, and so then I pursued that. I went to Ryerson University in Toronto and got my degree in Bachelor of Applied Arts.
Okay,
and. Then after I finished my 4 years there, and in between that, I was able to get an internship at CJD back home in Montreal because Ryerson, of course, is in Toronto.
Nice.
And and then I just was on the street team and I just thought it was so cool. Being in the studio, I learned to be a call screener for CJD. And then I started learning just how to do things behind the scenes, like cutting tape and even editing the weather forecasts and stuff. And I just loved all of it. I just thought it was so cool. And then when I was back in Toronto, I ended up being able to get into a radio station up there, and that's the career just kept going. And so I've been in different places. I stayed in Toronto for a few years as a producer. So I was producing talk shows, so coming up with the content. So I was still behind the scenes at that point, and I really just wanted to be sitting behind the microphone. So I made a serious decision to give up my life in Toronto and actually move back to Montreal and go work for a small station, K103 in Ganawage. So I worked there, and that was one of the best experiences because it's such a small station. And so I had to learn all the jobs. Like I wasn't just doing one thing. I was doing about 4 things. Like I was learning how to copyright. I was learning how to edit audio better. I was even helping keep the station on the air because we had like, sometimes we'd have technical issues and there just wasn't really any room to hire like a full-time technical person. So sometimes it was myself and the program director. I remember once getting called, it was like one in the morning and we found out like the station was off the air and we went, like I lived in Laval at the time and went flying, down across the Mercier Bridge and helped try to get it back on the air. So it was a really good experience because I learned, again, just trying to keep everything on the rails. And then from there, I went over to CJD and became a traffic reporter. And then that just kind of, again, led to...
Kept you busy.
Kept me busy.
In Montreal, certainly, I'm sure you had lots to report.
Yeah, because I was doing traffic on CJD and Mix 96 at the time and Shom. And then I finally got my break to be on the air at Mix 96 as an announcer. And I've never looked back. So
Mix 96 brings back some memories.
That's right. And now we're proudly Virgin Radio.
There you go.
That's good.
It's funny you mentioned K103. My first experience on the radio, I've been on the radio a few times, once with you.
Yes.
We can talk about that after, but it was K103. I played hockey for the Kanawaki or the Gagnawaga Condors.
Oh, amazing.
And they used to sort of like do the our games, right? They had announcers and all that. At the time, I was, 18. So that's 23 years ago. And they would bring you in between periods. They would come down and interview us. And that was my first experience on the radio. So it's funny you mentioned K103.
Yeah.
I had a great experience in Kanawaki or Gagnawaga, depending on how you say it. And it was good times. It was good times.
They were really great. They embraced me as part of the community, and I really appreciated that. And I still have friends there today, even though I don't work there anymore. But no, it's a great community, and it was good to learn at a community radio station.
Nice. And so now Mix 96 Virgin. So you've never left the sort of Mix 96 family. It's always been there.
I was for a little while. I was doing some stuff for the competition, but that was like maybe I don't even know if that was like 6 months. Maybe. And then I should say that I was on K103, went to the competition for a bit, if you will, like a bigger station, and then got brought back to the family, which was Standard Radio at the time. And then we got bought by Astral and then bought by Bell. But that's always been like CJD and Mix, which is now Virgin and Shom. So
the competition was like Q92 at the time?
940 News.
940 News. Okay.
Yeah, which is no longer in existence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of changes in Montreal radio, actually. If you've been around, I'm a big fan of radio. I listen to it, and there's been so many changes in terms of stations change names, purchases, merges, all those things. Has that affected your job at all, or?
Not mine specifically. I mean, I've been moved around from different positions, but that's to be expected in radio, whether you work in Montreal or, Toronto, Winnipeg, like wherever you end up, those types of changes can always happen. As an announcer, you always have to be ready because you never know when it's going to be your last show. So I've been fortunate. Like I'm actually currently right now the only announcer that was a Mix 96 announcer that is now a Virgin announcer. Although like our morning man, cousin Vinny, he was on Mix as well, but he did leave for several years and then came back.
The Beat, wasn't he at the?
He was over there for a while, and so now he's back and he was a Mix 96 announcer. But for a while, I was the last announcer that had been an actual Mix 96 announcer and still on Virgin. And I'm very proud to be on 95.9.
I have a lot of connections, it seems, with Virgin because Vince Baruco, we played hockey together, so I know Vince actually pretty well.
He's a good boy. I love him.
He is, and his brother Joe.
Yes, I'm very talented in audio. I'm not sure if he's still doing that, but I think he is. I think he was doing audio production.
Yeah,
so.
Such a small world, I guess, in Montreal. Everybody sort of knows each other. Although we're like 1.5 million. Like, how many people are we in Montreal? 2 million? 1 million?
Probably something like that.
And it seems that it's the same names that kind of.
Yeah, I think if you are a Montrealer and even like, for example, somebody who sort of moved here and really made it their own, like even our current announcer Charlie Page, like she's been here 5 or 6 years now, maybe even longer, might be 7 or 8, and she just really immersed herself in the city, and now like you would never even think that Charlie isn't from here, even though she is actually from out east.
It's kind of funny that way.
Yeah, and some people don't. It's some people actually come here and they don't last long, and that's interesting because then they usually go back to Ontario or back out west or even maybe back out east. But there's certain ones that they've moved here and they've just fallen in love with the city and they've like made it their own. And
yeah, because I think someone out west that came and then left again. I think Terry DeMonte.
Yeah, well, Terry's obviously
still radio now.
He's currently retired, as far as I know. He was with Shom for many, many years. He was even on Mix 96 for a while, and he's a great mentor to me. I think he's an amazing person, and I wish him happy retirement, and hoping he's enjoying himself, not having to get up at like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, the morning show stuff must be really rough, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to and everybody sort of like treats it differently, because I used to do morning traffic, and I've done morning shows as well, so. It depends. You're either a person where you'll go to bed at like 8:30 at night so that you get up at 3:30 and or 4 and you're good to go. And then there's other people that can't handle going to bed that early. So they might stay up till 10 or 11 and then still have to get up at 3:30, but then they will nap during the day.
Yeah.
And that was not me. I was a go to bed at 8:30, get the sort of straight hours of sleep, and then function throughout the day.
That surprises me, Kelly.
Yeah, probably not that surprising.
How did I know you were going to say that?
I can't do the naps. It was not my thing.
So we were talking before we started the show about being an expert or you mentioned the light turning on when you started radio, and that's what you wanted to do, even though you had talents or certain things that your father would mention that, oh, you should have been a lawyer, right? You mentioned to me because you were great at analyzing and being very organized. So we're in mortgage detention. You're in detention right now.
Yep.
And so when you're in detention, you sort of, it's because you didn't do your homework on certain things, and so. Since we created this show, we wanted to talk about finances and how perhaps in Quebec, the level of expertise or knowledge of finance isn't exactly where we'd like it to be. I had a previous guest that mentioned that, Quebecers or whether it be English or French, aren't necessarily recognized for their financial education. So my question, or I guess my very long introduction is, why is it that even though, for example, in your case, you had a very organized, why is it that you didn't necessarily want to learn more about being a lawyer? What is it that even though you were very good at something, you didn't go in that direction, or you weren't motivated to learn it? And then we'll sort of gravitate that into the debt conversation. Why is it that most people, when it comes to their finances, don't want or don't have time to get educated? So I let you, it's very long introduction.
That's okay. I know, like, when I was growing up, my aunt's actually an accountant, and she's the accountant for the farm, because my parents have a farm and I grew up on a farm. So that probably explains also the early bird special that I do when I get up so early, is because I was brought up that way. But it's funny. It's like a lot of my early life, I worked on the farm. And so obviously I went to school and did all that kind of stuff, but I was so immersed either doing my art stuff or working on the farm and loving being outside. And I remember as a kid clearly, like, not understanding why my aunt loved being in her books so much, like being in her financial books and doing all that stuff. And she loved numbers and all that. And I just had no desire, like none. And I wish that, like, looking back, I really wish that our schooling had been better with regards to, because, like, of course I had an economics class in, grade 11, it's Sec 5, I guess they call it now. And yeah, my nieces are always like, they don't call it that now, it's Sec 3 or Sec, what I'm like, no, it's grade 11. That's what it is.
I would say Sec 5. I think it depends if you're in the English or French side.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But now it's like Sec 5 for everybody, or Sec 4 or whatever. But anyways, grade 11 for me. And it was just like I did learn things, but it felt very, like, daunting, and like I felt like I didn't get it. And so
far away.
Yeah, like far away, and like I couldn't quite get it. And whether that was me or the teacher not, communicating properly, who knows? But I just never gravitated toward it. And then I was scared of it for many, many years. And funny enough, it was actually the radio station that brought me to it in a way, because all of a sudden on CJD, they asked me to start hosting some financial shows. And so I would be, speaking to mortgage brokers and, like real estate, whatever, anything that was sort of in that realm. And I was like, you need to learn this stuff. So that kind of propelled me. And then also when I came to see you to buy my first house, like, I knew nothing, and
a while ago now.
Really, 2012 was when I first met you. Yep.
Crazy.
And I just remember meeting with you, and I still remember, like, because I
the one thing, even if I don't know something, I will ask questions. Even if I'm like, I'll even say this is probably a stupid question, but then I'll ask it anyways.
Which is good because a lot of people won't even ask the question because they have this fear of, if I ask the question, I'm not going to look good, or like, this looking good sort of thing. And so I'm not, like when you're in class in school, I was like that. I don't want to ask a stupid question, and everyone looks at you like, get a pencil in the face because, But
I just remember asking you, I'm like, Ryan, I don't get it. And you, I still remember like you had like these line sheets of paper and you just wrote everything and you wrote out the equation and then you explained it to me like how it worked. And I just felt empowered after that. Like that really helped me feel like, okay, it's not some foreign language that I'm trying to learn. If I just take it step by step, I'll get it. And I still wish that I'm better than I am. But since I've had my own home, since 2012, I've really forced myself to be super aware of what's going on. And like, I've been up your behind how many times every time we think we need to change my mortgage or what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And, I feel much more empowered. And that's why, funny enough too, when I am still hosting these, financial shows on CJD, which I very much love doing, I will actually ask the quote unquote stupid question sometimes to the host, because I want the people that are listening to CJD to feel like they're not alone. Like I just feel like when I'm on the air, I'm an extension of them. I'm just lucky to have the microphone in front of me. Yeah. So I have no problems asking, and I'll even ask questions that are just like basic, but some that like I kind of know. I'm like, I bet you somebody wants to know this and is too scared to ask. And like even myself, like I wish I had started investing like younger. It's not terrible, thank God I did get into it, but like looking back, I'm like, wow, if I had tacked on those extra 8 years, like that I would be further ahead, So that's what I try to do is try to be a conduit for the listeners to ask the experts that do know. And sometimes too, like I've had some amazing, experts on whatever show I'm hosting, and I'll tell them before the show, especially depending on who they are, I'll be like, you need to dumb that down a bit. Like, cause they'll be talking like heady stuff. And I'm like, the regular person is going to click us off right now.
Too wonky. Like you get too nerdy, too nerd out.
Yep, exactly.
It's fun for maybe for the people that are experts in the field, but I mean, if you're not an expert.
Yeah. Well, it's like the equivalent of somebody like talking about their motorcycle with all the like parts and the doodads and the whatever. And like most of us just drive the motorcycle. We don't know, or drive the car and don't know that this fan belt does this or whatever. So it's the same thing if somebody starts talking about the markets and like all this ridiculous graphs and charts. I'm like, the regular listener, you've lost them. You've intimidated them. Yeah. And they're gone.
Yeah. So, even my financial planner sometimes, and we know him. Hello, Ed Simpson. He'll go into detail. I mean, he does this. I'm relatively well versed, and he'll go into like micro detail. And even for me, I started like thinking, I got to buy groceries later today. And, he's still on the bond market. I'll let him finish. And, you sort of disconnect, right? Because you're like, whatever you just said, even if I ask the question, can you explain that deeper? It's going to take 4 hours. And I know we don't have 4 hours. Yeah. So that's a good point. I mean, so do you think education empowers? Is the solution education?
I think so. But I think it's the way it's explained. Because again, it could be education like I had, where it was just too generic. It was too, I don't think advanced is a word, but it wasn't made palatable.
Not applicable.
Yeah. Like, and just not palatable for like a 17-year-old. But I really feel strongly that like, and I'm not sure, somebody watching this right now might be, well, there is classes in high school now that are better. I hope so.
Funny enough, there's a teacher that watches the show. His name is Vincent. Hi, Vincent. And he often said, no, there is that now. And, okay. Well, there were education courses when I was in high school, like home ec, that taught us sort of how to make balance. A muffin? Yeah, how to make a muffin, which, by the way, was useful because I still make muffins today. So I guess,
That's perfect. That's really.
But, there was a little bit of budget, but I mean, to the point where it was done in a way that was like, okay, so now we're going to talk about budget today, blah, 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 blah. That's it. One hour. And have a nice day. That's it.
Yep.
And the whole home ec thing was very much done quickly. Like, I think, instead of having 1 year of, let's say, mathematics, home ec was like 1 year of like 9 different things, right? You learn how to make a birdhouse, because I'm using that every day. Yeah. But I think that's the point. People feel that, for mathematics and science and everything, I think people feel that it's useless. Like, why am I... And it's not useless, but why am I learning this? Yeah. A lot of people in high school, they disconnect. The dropout rate is very high because I guess they have a point. Like, I don't think I'm going to ever use this. I'm not going to be a scientist. They already decided that. So I'm not going to do science. But so it's kind of funny that the one thing that we know everyone's going to need, which is a financial education, regardless of whether you're a big investor or a small investor, you need to know the basics. You're going to be needing to balance your budget, man.
Yeah.
And to know about mortgages and to know about debt and to know about investments. Why is it that you think that it's not more of a priority for our schooling system?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me, and I really think it needs to be made more interesting and fun for the kids to learn. And like you said, like they're going to use that every day. Like the advanced math class that I was in grade 11, Sec 5. I've never touched it since the day I left high school, and I'm glad I learned it. Like I'm proud of like looking back, especially because it was really challenging for me. And I think I even still have a binder somewhere with my notes because I just couldn't throw them out. I'm like, you killed yourself to get there. So I'm like, you'll keep your notes till you die. But I've never used it, and I've never used, like I actually had a really challenging time when I was in grade 11 physics and, but again, powered my way through it. But again, I've never looked at any of that ever again.
Exactly.
So but finances and learning how to manage yourself, because it's even interesting. I've some of my friends over the years, like I see some of the mistakes, like we've all made them, but like, they get themselves into credit card debt, or they make purchases, or they're like, oh, I can buy this. Because I even remember, I think I told you when we were doing, I do. When you were doing my decision on like how much we're going to spend on trying to get me the house, like you said to me, I don't want you stressed. Like, I don't want you. And I said, I don't want to be eating like noodles for supper, like, because that's all I can afford.
Craft dinner.
Yeah. Cause you said, don't overextend yourself. Like and you'd even talked about, and this was in 2012, how so many people get faulty advice where it's like, you can afford it. So then they buy these big houses, but
you can qualify for it, but you can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say many advisors, whether it be a banker or a broker on the debt side, tend to forget the part of affording. They go into, you qualify, figure it out.
Right.
But most people don't have the tools to figure it out.
Yeah.
They're like, well, can I? And there's really a disconnect there. It's a really good point that, people take that, if I can qualify for it, well, then I must be able to budget it. And when you actually dig into the formulas of what makes you qualify, there's tons of stuff that's not in that formula. It doesn't measure if you have 4 kids or no kids. Formula is going to be pretty much the same answer to qualification. But I'm pretty sure last time I checked, a child costs money.
Yeah.
And if you have 4 of them, it's probably 4 times more money. So obviously a family with 4 children versus a family with no children, you're gonna have to budget differently, even though technically they'll qualify for the same thing. And it's surprising that advisors today don't necessarily talk about the budget side. I mean, how did you feel? Was that something that was a big concern to you when you were looking to buy, like to make sure that was being touched?
Well, I'm fortunate that I am scared of money. And I say that in the best possible way, which is like, because I have friends, like I say, that will go out and buy stuff, motorcycles, new car, whatever it is, and just kind of go, I'll be fine. And then I'm always scared of like, and I've said to you, I've said to my current financial advisor, I'm like, I do not want to be like struggling when I'm a geezer. You know what I mean? And so thank God, I think my fear actually saved me, even maybe not doing the right investments right away because I wasn't as well versed, but the fear of spending too much helped me at least have a basis. So like when I went to see you, I did have some resources because I didn't go buy stupid stuff when I was a kid, and I didn't get into credit card debt. I had a friend of mine who was completely in credit card debt by the time she was 21. It took her years to get out of it.
What do you define someone that goes into debt and doesn't? Because, I think that it's very much like I have a little daughter, and she's very careful.
Yeah.
And then I have some nephews that they're just born that way. I think it's your
character.
Yeah, it's not something that they learned. In many cases, like my daughter, like we have a pool, and we're watching her, but she's very careful. She'll stay away from the pool. Never told her to stay away from the pool, but she's just careful.
Yeah.
And then you have my sister's kids. They'll come over and visit from Germany, and then it's like Sammy one point just jumped right in, like didn't matter, he went right to the bonnet to yank him back out, like no fear, just jumped.
Yeah.
And so some people are like that with debt. They're just like, it'll work out. Boom, buy the $100,000 car, and all of a sudden, it's not working out. How do you judge who needs what, and how do you sort of like create a standard or some sort of standardization in education for all those people? It's really hard.
I don't even know where the answer is in that, because but I really think it's important for parents to like
get versed and then try to pass along good habits to your kids, because they will emulate you, right? They'll emulate what you eat. They'll emulate if you exercise. They'll emulate how you treat people. Like all that stuff. It's all learned behavior.
They're mirrors.
They're mirrors, and so. To me, you have to be well versed so that you set your kids off on the right path. No matter what, and you have to know your kids too, because for example, I'm one of three siblings, and my sister is she has no fear. She rides horses, all that stuff. She's always been that way.
Same family.
But she. And thankfully, she is smart with her money, so that has worked out. But let's say she wasn't, because of that daredevil attitude that she has a bit. She could be in serious debt right now just because of I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But obviously, the world needs the daredevil people, because then they probably wouldn't have discovered Canada. To come across the ocean, all those years ago and give it a go.
Yeah.
So you need the explorers, if you will. But the explorers, depending on their temperament, I think need to be taught you don't always jump off the cliff.
Yeah. Do you feel education in finance and debt is sort of the same approach we take in terms of healthcare? In other words, we're very much about solving the symptoms and not the actual, not prevention. And what I mean by that is, you're feeling sick, take these pills, you're going to be good.
Yeah.
Not, do the hard work of exercising, learning how to eat right and running.
Yeah.
And in debt, when I'm listening to the radio, since,
as you should.
I should.
Yeah.
And the Kelly Alexander show.
That's it on our YouTube channel.
Very, very important. So when I'm listening to that, and and I'm listening to the commercials, because commercials are normal. If anytime I hear a commercial about finance or debt, it's something like, do you have a lot of debt? Do you need to get rid of your debt? Well, come see us and do a bankruptcy or a consumer proposal, and then you'll be fine and you can spend all over again and your stress will be gone. It's not, hey, why don't you stop? Why don't you think about getting a financial education so that you won't get there? We're sort of always like, okay, quick fix, got into trouble, declare bankruptcy, do a consumer proposal, you'll be good, but not prevention. So why is it? What's with humans about never thinking about prevention and sort of doing that early?
We're a fast food society, Ryan. Everybody wants everything in 2 minutes, and you're mad at the drive-through if you're not getting there fast enough.
Even their news now.
Yeah. So it's just and now everything is just so fast paced now with social media. Everything is instant, Twitter, Instagram, everybody is scrolling. So there's no, there's no people taking a beat to sit back and be is this a good decision? And you just roll, and there's days go by, and I think many people don't even know that days go by because they're so busy either with activities with the kids, their own job, making sure there's groceries in the fridge, that I think a lot of things get even eating properly, if they're so busy because the world is so fast paced, they might buy that boxed pizza, in the grocery store, as opposed to I should make it myself, with some pita bread or whatever, to make it more healthy. People just don't have the time. And the world is so fast paced right now that it's really hard to take a step back and be is this really good for me? And I really don't know where the answer lies, because I think social media has sped everything up, just exponentially.
Technology has just accelerated everything, and sometimes for the better, but sometimes not necessarily for the better.
Yeah.
So it's hard. How do we figure out to obviously I think it starts with the conversation. So these conversations that we're having. So for you that now you've bought how many houses? You're at 2 properties.
I'm at 2, on my second one. Yeah.
So the second one was a little more. That was your dream house.
That's my dream house. So you'll probably
talk to me about that.
Yeah, you'll probably have to pry me out with your cold dead hands, or my cold dead hands after, because I'm living the dream out in the country. And so what's great is I'm about 45 minutes from downtown Montreal, so it doesn't take me long to get to work, assuming traffic's not ridiculous. But we're just out far enough that on one side of me I have no neighbors for 2 kilometers. And then on the other side, they're there within 100 feet, but they're super great and there's no problem. And we're in a farming community. And because I come from a farm, I'm super happy. And I'm 11 minutes from my dad's farm. So I'm living the dream. And I'm so grateful to you and to my real estate agent, Mr. Sebastian Sperano, for helping make the dream come alive. Yeah.
It's great to feel that you've achieved something that you wanted to achieve, right? So what brought you there? I mean, did you always know you wanted to buy that property? I mean, for people that are listening to us today, I mean, they've gone through the pandemic, they've seen prices rise.
Yeah.
Affordability is being questioned now. Will I own my home? Should I buy a home? It's so expensive now. What would be, as someone that really worked hard, because I know you worked hard, I know you stayed focused, what would you say to a first-time buyer or people that are looking to upgrade? Like, what should they be doing? What is the one piece of advice or three pieces of advice that you'd give someone that they should be doing in terms of, getting to the point where they've reached their dream, the reasonable dream?
Yeah, well, I think that you really have to, like, one thing that about me is, and whether it's good or bad, but I think oftentimes it comes in handy, is like I see big picture. And, I really wanted to end up in an environment like this, but I'm just lucky that my partner decided to join me because I really didn't know if she would want to leave, because we were in the suburbs, and she actually had been living in downtown Montreal for a while before she joined me in Laval. But she also comes from like a rural background, actually in Ireland. Like she's like legit born in Ireland. And when we were out driving around one day, she's the one that spotted the property first. And she was like, what about that? And like, I couldn't believe it. I was blown away because I didn't think I was going to get there that fast. I didn't know if I would be able to convince her, but she was the one that saw the property. We thought about where we wanted to be long term, and then we like called Sebastian immediately, and then you, and then the thing happened within like a month. It was bananas, and we moved from Laval out there, and like we're just so happy, and I'm so proud of us because I think knowing where we came from and how hard we've had to work, like I'm just so proud that we have this property that we love so much.
What are the sacrifices you had to make to get there? Because I mean, I talk a lot about delayed gratification to the younger generation. I just aged myself. It's all over now. When you start saying the younger generation, it's not good news. Yeah. But delayed gratification is a big thing. Everybody seems to want what they want immediately. And you were able, I think, to sort of like, okay, I'm going to start here. I'm going to save up. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to do my things right. So how do you sort of like, enroll a new generation that is in the social media, looking at the fake lives of everybody on their Instagram that think that, oh my God, I want this, I want that, which isn't necessarily even real. How do you enroll them in understanding that you can have what you want, but you just can't have it now? You need to make the right choices. What do you say to them?
Again, I think it comes down to the parents, because if the parents are buying the child iPads every year, you know what I mean? Or iPhones or whatever it is, like whatever technology, it could be an Android phone, but a new computer. I just feel like so many of the kids do not realize how much money it costs to buy that, because when it's your own money, you're like, wow, like that took me a while. Like even for example, like I just bought a new iPhone in 2019 just before the pandemic. And thank God, because I actually turned out to be super helpful for me for live streaming and stuff that I ended up doing during the pandemic. But like my phone before that was another iPhone, but it had been like, I'd had it for like 5 or 6 years because it was still working and it was still fine. And so I didn't, because it's a significant investment to go do that, but the kids don't know that. So, but if you're a parent and you're fortunate enough to be financially, capable of doing it, but maybe even some of them aren't. That's the other thing, is I think some parents put themselves, because they're like, maybe I didn't have that as a kid, so I want my kid to have better. Yeah. So then they're teaching them like, oh, you can have this new iPhone or you can have this new technology every year, and they don't really know what it's worth. And like, I think also me growing up on the farm, like I saw the amount of work my parents and my aunt and my grandparents and even us, like I was working on the farm like full time in the summers by the time I was like 11 or 12. Like I was putting in full hours, and I'm sure like somebody listening be like, that's ridiculous. Like don't make kids work like that. But like we were a family business, and like my dad needed us, and there was and we always viewed it as like, we're a team and we need to get through this. So I had no problems working like super hard as a kid, but I also saw like, to fix a tractor, it's not $20. It might be $2,000 just to fix like a wheel or something, you know what I mean? So like I could see that like it took my dad so much to earn that money and my parents to earn that money to fix that. Like so it's funny, I'm really super careful with all of his tractors because I'm like, it's expensive. Like, and so I learned very early, like things have value and it takes money like it takes hours and sweat to earn it. Yeah. But I just think there's so many kids nowadays that don't earn anything. They're just given.
Yeah.
And they're very entitled. Like, that's the word I would use. And so I think it comes down to the parents to be like, you know what? Here's your Christmas gift. Like, let's say it is whatever, but say like, don't expect another one for a good couple of years, or you're going to start working to earn it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because it has to come from somewhere.
Gift. I have a conversation with my wife about our daughter. Like, it's not necessary to have 25 gifts at Christmas.
Yeah.
And, the families come, they bring all kinds of stuff. Consumption issues aside, because that's a whole climate thing of just like over the top consumption.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, anything you've ever bought. There's a comedian that did a skit about that. He has red hair. He's hilarious.
Oh, I know. Carrot Top?
No, not Carrot Top. He also stars in The Mandalorian.
Oh, I'm super bad at movies, Rye. I never have time to watch them.
That's true. But he does a skit on that, and he says, everything you've ever bought at one point or time is somewhere. Like, it doesn't just disappear. We tend to have a thing like, oh, it's in the garbage can, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's gone to some secret place somewhere where it's not, but it's still there, right? I mean, there's a walrus somewhere with a wrapped sweater that I bought at one point that I threw out, with that was funny that I bought it, but there's probably some sea animal that's being choked by it right now. It's not really funny, but we don't think about these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you talked about hard work, and that's one of the things that probably if you do work hard when you're younger and you understand the value of hard work, you're going to obviously understand that if I have to work hard to get this amount of money, I'm going to spend it more wisely because, I don't really feel like doing it all over again next year just to buy a new iPhone again.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we were talking before we got on, and you work very hard. Tell me about your schedule. Tell me about your schedule, but because, you're on the radio, you're doing Virgin, you're working hard there, but you have the Kelly Alexander show. You put a lot of time into that.
Yeah.
And you have quite a bit of success. You're talking about, you interviewed Missy Elliott, you interviewed a whole bunch of amazing people. So this is on the side on top of that. So talk to me about, that's your dream and all the hard work it took to get there. And I think that's going to, sort of motivate a lot of people that are listening.
Yeah. Well, I think if you have a passion, whatever it is, like for me, I love doing interviews. Like, I could sit and do them all day long because I just find it fascinating. Like, again, like I said earlier, I always feel like I'm the conduit between the fan listening or the audience member listening, and if the artist that I'm either interviewing, or if it's the financial expert. I just want to be that conduit and ask appropriate questions and questions that the fans want to know. And so I could do that all day long. Like, I absolutely love it. And so with my day job, that's not a full-time requirement of me. Like, thank God I get to do it for Virgin. I love doing it for Virgin. But because Virgin is commercial radio, we only have a short amount of time to do the interviews because we can't air the full ones on the air. We just don't have the time. We have to play the music. So that's when I got into creating, back in 2009, the Kelly Alexander Show, which started off as a podcast, and it still is. But I've now, sort of branched out a bit. So we're now a visual podcast. So people can watch us, just like this. And so you can watch, but it's funny. It's like a visual podcast, but it's like, right now I'm really focusing on one-off interviews and building my brand that way. So we have a YouTube channel. So you just type in Kelly Alexander Show and you'll find us. And we do a lot of R&B and pop stuff. And then I just recently had a feather in my cap was to get Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue. And so he was a big guest that we had a couple of months ago. And we just have conversations. And I'm really fortunate that the fans really take to my line of questioning and how I treat the guest, because it really is like just a fun conversation. It doesn't feel like an interview. And so that's what we're focusing on now. And but because I have to, not have to, I love my day job. So I do my day job, but in order to get this off the ground and keep working towards my goal, I get up usually at 5 or before, and I try to put in a couple of hours of Kelly Alexander Show stuff, if you will. And then I work out, and then I start day job. And then after day job is over, I do like anywhere between another hour or two. I try to go to bed early, so like I'm not up at midnight working on it. So there's times where I'm like, you should keep going, but I'm in this place now where I'm like, if I'm doing it from a place of super tiredness, it's not the best either.
It's not as sharp.
Yeah. So I try to, and then I try to get in extra hours during the weekend as well. But it's a passion for me, and getting the comments that we do from our fans saying like, Kelly, thank you for asking this question. It's something I've always wanted to know, means the world to me. And it means like that the work I'm doing pays off.
So working hard pays off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one lesson that maybe a lot of young people and a lot of not even young people, I think just a lot of people need to realize that if you work hard and you work smart, you're going to get better results than the person next to you that just is a little more entitled.
Yeah.
That wants to have, and I think I run into this a lot in terms of clients, and we try to like, coach them out of it. But, the thinking of, I deserve this.
Yeah.
You just, no, hey, look, I want this, so I should get it. Life doesn't work that way.
No.
Like just because you want it doesn't mean you'll get it.
Yeah.
You need to, you need to create it. You need to work for it.
Yeah. What's funny is I actually will not use the word, like Kelly never uses the word deserve. I'm now talking in the third person, but like I will never say the word like I deserve this, or I will never use that word. I will always use I need to earn it, or I've earned it. And I will also say too, we haven't touched on this, but I've been in martial arts since I was 6 years old, and being in martial arts has really helped as well with discipline.
I'm a little afraid now.
And I really feel like, I mean, martial arts is not for everybody, but even if you might not want to do because I'm in a combat sport like karate, so there's that element. But even if you're not into that, but would maybe prefer like yoga or something like that, it still requires discipline. And the amount of benefits that I have received, and my teammates that I see, like the kids that I see that are in my karate class and karate school, they're miles ahead of other kids as far as I'm concerned. Like, and they don't need to even to be like in karate. Like, I think karate does have a special mixture or special magic, if you want to call it that. But I'm very happy to see any kid in skating or soccer or baseball, something where they're accountable either to teammates or to themselves, and accountable to their parents who are paying the money to put them in the sport. I just think that it gives them an extra mindset of like earning and working towards something, and as opposed to the kids that are staying at home playing on video games.
Discipline and consistency, because consistency is also a big thing. A lot of people aren't consistent, and that's seen just every January 5th, right? You're going to the workout. If you're working
the January joiners, Ryan.
The January joiners. I think every gym owner has basically survives based on the people that take there, and then are too busy because they're not looking at their finances, because they didn't get enough education when they were young to actually realize that they're paying for a membership they're not going to use. Or they're paying for it in the hope, because it makes them feel better that I have this membership, but they're not really doing it. I'm still paying for a piano app that I'm supposed to be using to learn how to do piano. And, it starts every year in January. It lasts about a month. I'm getting better at my middle C and reaching over there, like doing my switch. And then finally it sort of like tapers off. And when the bill comes around next December, I'm like, no, I'm going to do it, start again. And then it's just, blowing money because I'm not consistent and I'm not disciplined enough in the piano to just keep it going.
Yeah. And I think everybody too, like, it's funny you mentioned that. I had actually mentioned to my better half last March that I wanted to learn the guitar, because it was something that had been in my thought process. And she was very sweet. Like, for my birthday, she bought me a guitar, like nothing crazy, but like a good one. But it's funny, I have been so busy just around since my birthday that I literally haven't do it, and I see it and it's there, and it is something I want to get to. But even me, I don't get to everything that I want to either. So I don't have the magic solution, but I do think that you have to be disciplined, you have to set goals, you have to see big picture, and you also have to surround yourself with people that are beneficial to you. Like, if you're with somebody, whether that's your partner or just like a group of friends that are getting you into bad stuff or leading you down a path of being complacent, you're going to be that way. And I just think you need to surround yourself with smart people and with people that challenge you and make you want to be better.
Create a strong team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So speaking of team, I'm on the Kelly team.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You are. You are definitely very much on the Kelly team.
And you mentioned you had a financial planner. So since you are someone that is a conduit and you're someone that you mentioned is willing to ask the questions that other people are not willing to ask, if we talk about financial planning or debt, what are, let's say, the top 5 questions that you think people should be asking that they may not ask? In other words, like the simple questions that, you're willing to ask, and that I'm pretty sure everyone that's listening today is like, okay, what do I ask? Come on, Kelly, tell me what to ask that I'm not really willing to ask, or that I don't even know to ask. What would you say?
Well, one, I think, is just even understanding your bank accounts. Like, do you have a TFSA? Do you know what that really means for you? Do you have a plan to retire? Like, what happens if you're laid off? Like, what happens if you're hurt? Do you have insurance if you're hurt that you could survive for a while? Like, are you really thinking is your have you combined your assets with your partner? Should you keep some of them separate? Like just stuff like that I don't think people, and even like knowing, how to pay off debt. If they have some debt, like, do I start with the biggest debt or do I start with the smallest debt? Like, which way do I go to try to get rid of it? Do I have one credit card or two? Do I need three? Is that going to wreck my credit? Like, I just think there's basic questions that people should ask and are scared to ask it. But like I said, I ask those questions all the time because
that was amazing, by the way.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, okay. Because those things were so simple, and you can't even imagine how many people would not be able to answer those questions. Like, which credit card do I pay first? Yeah. They're like, well, I'll just pay all of them. No. Yes, you pay all of them if you can pay them off all in full, certainly. Yeah. But if you can pay them off in full, what is the credit card you'll pay first? People are like, I don't know, the one with the higher interest? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yet 4 seconds ago, that's not what you were doing. Yet just doing that might save you $50, $100, $200 a month in interest. Yeah. Crazy. And that's super simple. Yeah. I had a client, and this is a crazy story. In fact, I shouldn't say a client. I had many clients over the years that had this situation. And to this day, you're going to freak out. To this day, I still can't believe that the answer is not clear. So here's the situation. They had about $10,000 in debt on their credit cards or lines of credit, personal lines of credit. And they had $12,000 in their bank account. And they'd call me and say, Ryan, I need to refinance my home because I have these debts. And I tell them, well, you have $12,000 in your bank account. You have $10,000 of debt. Take your money, pay off all your debt. No more debt. You got $2,000 left in your bank account. No need to refinance. No need to pay the fees. No need to pay the notary. No need to do any of that. Yeah. And it's done. Like, well, if I do that, I won't have any money left. And then sort of like silence. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm being punked or something. Ashton Kutcher is going to jump out of the back of the couch and be like, gotcha. And I'm like, there's like a 5-second silence, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, but you will still have access to the money, right? That's what you're scared of. Well, I won't have access to it anymore. Yes, you will. On your cards. If you need to use it, you could still use your cards, but then I'll get into debt again. You're already in debt. And it just seemed like it wasn't connecting, and which sort of raised the question, well, this is probably why you guys need to go into mortgage detention, to be in a detention class to sort of learn these things, that this is a simple, just take money, pay off credit card debts. And they weren't doing it. And so if they're not doing that, imagine what they're really not doing. Yeah. I mean, you did a rapid fire. I said 5 questions. You shot like 19 questions in under 15 seconds. You practiced before, didn't you?
I did not. But what's funny is like, I know that I don't have all the answers. Like even you have told me in the past, like, cause I have like this fear again, like we've talked about of being broke when I'm older. And so you even warned me, you're like, Kelly, you actually, cause I have savings, and you're like, you have too much of it in your savings. You need like, not that it's like by any stretch, I am not loaded by any stretch, but I've saved since I was a kid. So I probably have like, a little nest egg there.
Prudent.
Yeah, I guess so. And you've said to me, like, it was like a few months ago, you're like, you can take some of that out, Kel, and put that more in the TFSA, which I have done. But it's funny, I still probably kept a bit more than you would have liked, because but I know me. I know that's my fear. So I'm like, okay, like if that's going to make you sleep better at night, knowing that you have that money there if you just want it, that's fine. But I did push myself out of that comfort zone, and I put more into where you thought it should go. And
baby steps.
Yeah. So I know I don't have all the answers. And I think you as a person, need to start knowing, like, and as you get older, like in your 20s, you're all over the place. You have no idea what the heck's going on. But as you get older into your 30s and stuff, you really need to start figuring out, like, what are your idiosyncrasies, and do you need to change them? Because some of them are great, but some of them are holding you back. So try to analyze, like, step back from yourself and make prudent decisions. Yeah.
Realize what you're good at, and then create a strong team to help you where you're less talented or where you're willing to put in less time. So, I mean, I don't have any time, I was saying, to do renovations at home. And although I'm not completely, lost in the topic, I'm just not willing to, look at a YouTube video for 4 hours and figure out how to, replace my sink. I tried it once. I was able. I got wet quite a bit, but I was able. But, for something that usually would probably take someone 15 minutes that knew what they were doing, it took me 2 hours, which I probably shouldn't be saying. So basically, anyone who's listening, never call Ryan to help you change your sink or your plumbing. It will be a disaster. But, call me to maybe get a referral for a good plumber. But that's it, right? I think that people shouldn't be afraid to surround themselves with a strong team that will help them in finance and debt and in renovations, wherever you're not good at.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing that, and you're asking the right questions. So what other questions did you ask?
Like to you in general? Or?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I did your mortgage.
You did do my mortgage. I can't tell you how much I appreciated that you just did the calculations and showed me. Like, that just made me feel so much more at ease, because I really felt like out of control, you know? And it's even funny, like another example I'll give you is, for some reason, percentages scare me. Like, they just do.
Like the symbol? Or?
Like just knowing like how to kind of calculate them properly and all that stuff. And I know calculators do that, but like for some reason my eyes glaze over a little bit. But thankfully, my better half is extremely good at that stuff. And so, for example, I did allow myself a treat like several years ago. I decided that, and it was only because she said to me, she's like, you never really let yourself do anything super fun. Like you've been so careful with your money, like so careful. And she's like, when are you ever going to spend any of it? You know, like, cause but I'm like, I don't want to be broke when I'm old. She's like, yeah, but you're never going to have any fun if you're old and you can't do, you know, what you want to do. So for example, so she and I actually called him, my financial advisor, to see if it was okay. And I let myself have like a birthday treat where I purchased an ATV, because I've loved ATVs since I was a kid. And so I made this purchase, and I went with her though. She went with me to do it. And I took weeks, because when it's a massive purchase, I take weeks to make decisions.
I can imagine you not even sleeping for days.
I had dreams and the whole thing about it. And I literally waited to get confirmation from my financial advisor that it was okay to do this and to actually like carry a loan. Because I could have probably purchased the thing, but I was like, he's like, no, you don't need to do that. Like, put some down and then just pay it off over 3 years. And I was so scared to carry that loan, but he's like, you have the money. He's like, I won't let you do something if I don't think you can. But just having him reassured me. She helped me with the paperwork with the dealer, and I'm so happy because like now it's paid off, and I literally will hope to be buried with this ATV because I love him so much.
Like an Egyptian pharaoh, right?
Exactly.
They're gonna create like a tomb, and you're gonna have your ATV
and me in it.
And there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
With a mic or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it was just great that I'm just so happy that even though I was scared, she helped me through it with the paperwork and with the financing, because like, I'd never had to carry a loan like that before, like in that type of way with a vehicle. And so it was just great. And to have the support from my financial advisor, and we walked through it, and he's like, no, if you have this payment, you're going to be okay. And I'm just really grateful that I had those two people to help me get through it. And now I can't tell you how much I love this ATV, but I didn't buy it when I couldn't afford it. Also, I didn't do this 20 years ago when I would have been in severe financial peril trying to pay for this thing. But I'm just grateful I have it. And so I do think you should treat yourself, but you have to earn it. You have to earn it, and you have to be smart about how you get it.
Yeah. And in training, because you were saying you work out and so do I, there's that concept of cheat day, right? So you want to be really disciplined, but I mean, if you're overly disciplined, eventually you're just going to burn yourself out, and you're not getting the results, because your body's saying like, why am I doing this again? I need a break. Yeah. I think on finances, it's the same thing. Like, be disciplined, be good, but once in a while, it's okay, man. Like you can go out, and spend a bit of money in a responsible way. And if you're not sure if you should or not, well, then you're surrounded by people that are going to tell you honestly and give you the right advice. Yeah. Kelly, you're good. You're good. And I bet you today you love that. You're driving around.
I love him. He actually has a name. His name is Jazz. And he's a Kodiak. He's a Yamaha. And I love this. I cannot tell, because he's the right blue. Like, it's funny because another dealer tried to like sell me a black one, and I was like, if you can't get me this blue one, I'm not buying it. Like, that's how much I wanted this particular color. And so one dealer was like, I have black, that's it. And then the other guy's like, I'm gonna find you one. And he shipped one in from Ottawa or something for me. And I literally love this thing. And it's like,
and you named it.
I know his name is Jazz. And he's my boy.
When you first told me Jazz, at first I thought you were saying that's my financial planner's name. And you're like, he's blue. I'm like, okay, her financial planner is like part of the Blue Man Group. The guy's working hard too. He's on part. This guy's dancing in Vegas and doing financial planning. Exactly. And now I realize, no, that's my four-wheeler. It's your four-wheeler. Yeah. And so you'll be able to like come visit me on the land we talked about before. You can drive around. We have 500 acres of the trailer's
ready to go, Ryan. I'll be there next week.
Perfect. I might need you. You might get sticky though.
That's it. But you know what's funny is I would just mention to anybody, if you do have like this ATV, like I said, has been a goal of mine since I was a kid. And it was funny, I was in my garage the other day and I had just shined him up, Jazz. And I have to tell you, just looking at him, I was proud to have him. Like, and it was proud, like I was proud to know, like I had worked for it. I paid him off. He's mine. I'm taking good care of him because I do want him to run forever. And it was just like a good feeling knowing like I to the best of my knowledge, I did it the right way.
Looping that into delayed gratification, that is probably the best way to describe why delayed gratification is amazing. Because when you delay it and then finally you achieve the ultimate goal because you didn't take shortcuts along the way and sort of make yourself feel better by, like cheating here or cheating there. When you're finally looking at the final result, very satisfactory.
Yeah. And it's funny because you don't mean to, but I just saw him there. I was like, I love you. Like, he's my boy. I love him.
The farm, probably the same way. Yeah. I know houses for me, I remember buying my first house and I was like freaking out. I saved so much. Like you said, when you're 20s, you spend so much. Pierre McSween was a great writer on that, talks about, be smart in your 20s, save some money. It'll pay off. And I remember, at 25, just sitting on my balcony of my first house and being like, holy moly, I just did this.
And you probably did it 10 years before anybody else in your age, right? You know what I mean?
Not as early I would have liked, but earlier. A lot of first-time buyers are in their, and for some, it's not their fault because the market itself has priced them out. But I mean, for a lot of people, they could have bought earlier. And especially in real estate, my father always said, and whether he was right or wrong, it's better to buy real estate and wait than to wait to buy real estate. Cue cheesy music and 80s mustache.
I love that. That's amazing.
So I always remember that. But it's true. I mean, with inflation being what it is today, crazy. You want to be smart and you want to, buy something and make sure you take care of it and make sure it lasts a long time. And that's a huge aspect of your finances, of the materials you buy. It's a great point. Yeah. So I'm happy you and Jazz are
we're good buddies,
enjoying each other.
My inanimate object that I have a name and I talk to him. But I want to say too, I'm glad you mentioned the 20-year-olds. It's funny. I work with a lot of 20-year-olds at the radio station and I try to pass along information if I can. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've brought up your name. I've brought up Sebastian's name. I brought up my financial planner's name because I'm like, guys, you need to think about this now. And it's interesting to see their mindsets because again, they're just coming out of like maybe living with their parents, and all this stuff. And they just want to go out and have a good time or whatever. And I get it. But you just hope you can get into their heads. Like if you save a bit more now, you're going to be laughing when you're 32 or whatever, as opposed to other people. And I just think it's our responsibility as people who are a little bit older, but still cool. I think I'm still cool.
You're very cool.
Thank you. If you can impart that message to any 20-year-olds in your life, and even I talk to my nieces and my nephew who are like early teens right now, and I'm like, think about this, be smart about this, because you can actually make a difference now. And one of my nieces is a rock star. Like I'm so proud of her because whenever she gets her birthday money from whoever, she keeps most of it. Like she saves it. It's going into like a bank account or whatever that she needs to deal with. And it's funny because her sister is like, what can I buy? And like, it's a bit all over the place.
Crazy, right? I mean, so you mentioned the 20-year-olds. It's funny. I find it funny that as humans, we create sort of this us and them, all or nothing sort of situations. Like you can either only save or only spend, and somewhere in there's like a huge spectrum. And we don't tend to, when you have those conversations with the younger generation, like, well, I want to live. No one's telling you not to live, man. Like I just told you, like maybe consider saving a bit of money, and they interpret that as, well, no, if I save money, I'm not living. No, but you can do both. And I find that in finance, in debt, and you would say maybe even in life, we need to stop creating these false choices. Like it's not always left or right. That's a little political thing too. Sometimes a right policy can be good and sometimes a left policy can be good, but we seem to be like, creating this huge, like, Grand Canyon in between all kinds of choices that doesn't need to be that way. Usually it's all in this gray zone, and if you realize that, you can make better choices. You can save, and Friday night you can go out because you saved all week and you didn't go out 6 times this week.
Exactly.
But
it's interesting, Ryan, like when you if I think back to being like 25 or whatever, thankfully I was scared to spend too much, so I didn't, but I still remember thinking I knew a lot more than I actually did. And so I think that and maybe that's how the world needs to be, because like, again, the young, inspire whatever they inspire, but there's just that thing that like they know everything, but it's only when you realize that you don't, when you're either like 28 or 29 or 30 and you start realizing like,
Crazy.
Oh my God, like, and even now, like I still sometimes go, wow, like,
my parents weren't wrong about XYZ, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I wish I had and even now, like myself, like I spent so much time in my 20s being obsessed with my career. And I do think it obviously helped in certain regards, but I look back and I'm like, I actually wish I had a bit more fun, not crazy spending or anything, but just had to like relax a little bit, enjoyed being in my 20s a bit more. But in your 20s, you're just so concerned about where you're going and how you're getting there that the 20s go by, and then all of a sudden you're 30 and you're like, how did this happen?
You don't listen to anyone. I would love to go back to 25 and punch myself in the face. I mean, I'd probably go back 2 years ago and punch myself in the face. If I met myself every year back, the face in front of you would be much uglier. It would be severely beaten by my own fist. But, it's funny you say that because, me and my wife talk about that all the time. And, our parents made a lot of good points. And they're like, you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
They sort of did. Yeah. And with my daughter, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I try to think about, as a parent, how am I going to communicate that to my daughter from a position where, look, I'm not being the parent. I'm just trying to say, look, I've lived some SHIT, and I'm just, like sharing it with you so you don't run into the brick wall that I ran into, or realize 10 years later that, why did I do that, in Mexico?
Yeah.
That never happened.
It's true.
But you learn from your mistakes, and it's sort of, that's something I think all humans like to share, and they like talking about their mistakes. They're saying, look, I did this, don't do that, right? And we tend to be like, what does he know, or what do they know?
Yeah.
But, the conversation needs to be had, and then you're having it.
Yeah,
and
trying to.
I think you're doing a great job. Wisdom is tough. Wisdom is really tough. So as a final, because we're the time is
I probably kept
so
talking
quick.
Too much. Or
I think talking, usually I talk so much. When I listen back to these things, I'm like, Ryan, be quiet. Let the other person speak, for God's sakes. But as a final, to send us off.
Yeah, to the ether.
To the ether,
to the radio airwaves.
There you go. What would be the closing remarks? Like, what would Kelly like to say to everybody that's listening or watching about what they could do right now, and knowing that you got some advice from my company on mortgages, Sebastian on real estate, Sebastian Sperano, great realtor as well. What would you say on whether it be financial planning or debt? The one thing that you would leave as a final comment to everyone listening, what do they do?
I think find what you're scared about the most and fix that, because that's probably your biggest problem. Like if you are scared of learning about your bank accounts or learning like what a TFSA does or how should I be, or paying down my credit card debt, that's where you need to start, because that's like your subconscious, I think, telling you like red alert, get on that. So I think like you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and be like, yo, I got to fix this.
Big time. Yeah. It's very words of wisdom.
Yeah, yo, I gotta fix this.
Yo, get it done.
Exactly.
Kelly Alexander.
Yes, sir.
The Kelly Alexander Show.
Yeah, kellyalexandershow.com. Can find me. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Love the show. So
love the t-shirt.
T-shirt's great too. Like self-marketing is a great thing.
It's subtle, right? Until you point it out.
There you go. But now everyone's gonna know. But it's important.
Yeah, it's super important. Yeah.
For all the hard work you've done, I know your story and you work so hard. So people should really check that out. And thank you for the confidence you've had in our services over the years.
Amazing.
And hopefully we can continue working together and help as many people on the entertainment side or on the debt side so that nobody, either entertainment or debt, will be in mortgage detention.
It's a good place to get out of.
There you go. Thank you. Merci d'avoir été avec nous pour cette retenue. Je vous invite à nous suivre sur Facebook, Instagram, YouTube et les principales plateformes de podcasting, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. Et si vous connaissez un cancre financier, dites-lui de s'abonner à ce podcast. On se rejoint à la prochaine retenue.